Colleen Delaney. Let's talk about books. Hi, I'm Colleen. If you're new here, I talk about books and writing. In the description, I always put links to like my newsletter, and I've had some new books come out, all that. Today, I'm not going to talk about my books, though. I'm going to talk about Book of the Month. I assume since you're here, you either search Book of the Month or maybe you watch my channel so you know what it is. If not, it's a monthly book subscription service that you can check out. I'll put a link in the description if this video makes you want to sign up. You can use my code and get your first book for like $5.99 or something crazy. But today we're going to talk about all the Book of the Month books I haven't read yet that I own, which is a lot right now. So yesterday I got my package and I did order a lot this month. So I have a total of 8 books and 1 short story that I need to read, and let's go through them. And maybe if you've read any of these, in the description, you can say, hey, read this one next. So I was going to try and do this by latest, the one I've had the longest forward. So we'll see. It might not be entirely correct though, because sometimes I forget which months I get them. But I think this is going to be right. The first is The Great Divide by Christina Enriquez. I even have a bookmark ready in it. I have 2 bookmarks. Oh my gosh, I put 2 in here for me to start. So I have bookmarks when we're reading. Let's take one out and put it in a different book. This is a fictionalized retelling of building the Panama Canal, and that sounded super interesting to me. I got this because I was like, I haven't read historical fiction in such a long time. And there's another book in this pile that I did that as well with historical fiction. And I just haven't been in a historical fiction mood. But I really want to read this book. So if you have read this book, if you could please in the comments just say you have to read The Great Divide. It was phenomenal, because that will motivate me to pick it up. I think it'll be really good. I think my husband might even like to read it too, which I always love when I read a book and can be like, hey, read this book. It's only 320 pages, so it's not even that long. So yeah, I need to read this book. What I really need is a day in which I can go to the beach by myself with all of these books and just read all day long. Doesn't that sound amazing? That's not going to happen. My next oldest, I believe, is The Ministry of Time by Kayleen Bradley. Okay, I technically started this, but I'm on page 10, so not really. I just read this for a little bit one day before I was interrupted. I got this in May. I got 3 books in May. This one I'm going to talk about next, and I got The Return of Ellie Black. And I did not really like The Return of Ellie Black. And so I think that put me in a little bit of like a, not like an anti-book of the month feel, but it put me in a little bit of a funk. So I haven't been wanting to start this really. One of my cousins just finished this and she told me it was like a 3-star read for her, which I was like, that's not helpful. That's not going to make me want to read this book. So if any of you have read it, tell me it was phenomenal, or be honest with me. I don't want to read something that I'm not going to like. I mean, I'll read it eventually. This is about time travel. It's about a man who's brought forward from like, basically he's going to die. So they bring him forward to our time and he's being observed, and the woman who's observing him, they're going to fall in love. And so that sounds like right up my alley. I think the reason I've been anxious is I'm a big romance reader. And so I'm anxious as to whether or not this is going to turn out, if he is going to die, if she is going to die, if something crazy is going to happen and they're going to be separated forever. It's not that I wouldn't read a book like that. It's more just like, I don't like the unknown of it, if that makes sense. That's one of the things I like about romance is I don't feel stressed when I'm reading romance, because you know how it's going to end. It's the same way you feel when I read a thriller. I know how it's going to end. So, but if you loved this, if you absolutely love this, please tell me, because it does on paper sound like something I would really enjoy. So I should probably start it at some point. I'm going to use that extra bookmark for this next one because it doesn't have a bookmark in it. And it's Shelterwood by Lisa Wingate. I got this as just on a whim in May. It was an add-on. It's historical fiction. It's Oklahoma 1909 and Oklahoma 1990. And I honestly bought this because literally the week before this came out, my son got obsessed with watching tornado videos. So we live like in a light tornado area. We get warnings a lot. They almost never hit us because we live close to a Great Lake and tornadoes don't like Great Lakes. But so my son has gotten really, really into watching tornado videos. And so we were watching a ton that were taking place in Oklahoma. And then I saw this and I was like, oh, I should read this book. It's historical Oklahoma and 1990 Oklahoma, which I have a hard time believing that's history because I was 7. It's about pioneers and like protecting children. And so I thought I would like that. I haven't heard anyone tell me they've read this. I have not seen it on any other booktuber or bookstagrammers. I have not, my like local bookstores, my indie bookstores around here, I follow them all on Instagram, and they always put up like their 10 bestsellers of the week or whatever books they're excited about. I haven't seen this anywhere. So I think that's part of the reason I haven't felt like super excited to pick it up. I do think I will eventually. Honestly, I just bought a ton of books from Book of the Month, so there's a chance I might take September off if there's not, something screaming at me. Also, I have 8 books and a short story right here. And you should all hold me to this. In the month of August, I want to read at least 4 of these books, okay? So you make sure I do that. Okay, my last book, I've read 150 pages of, and I think I'm going to DNF this book because I'm just not enjoying it. And I really hate to DNF books that I get from Book of the Month because they're like hardcovers, and I always just feel like I should finish them. But honestly, like, why? Why would I force myself to finish it? And it's Honey by Isabel Banta. I only bought this because I wanted to buy Swan Song by Ellen Hilderbrand, because this was for June. Her newest book was an add-on for June, and I really wanted that book. And you can't get it unless you buy a main book of the month. Normally, I would just put it on my TBR and get it the next month. But the problem was, I was worried it would sell out because it's like her last Nantucket book. Sort of, if you read the acknowledgments, she said she's just taking a little time off. She might go back to writing Nantucket books. And 2, I like reading an Ellen Hilderbrand in June because I feel like it like kicks off the summer because they're like so summery. And so I didn't really want to wait till July to get that book. So I was like, I'll just pick one of the picks. And so I thought this would be a really fast read. Joke's on me. Started reading it over a month ago. And it's not for me. It's like a fictionalized retelling of Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera's time frame, like what it was like to be a pop star when everyone was like kind of obsessed with like teen sexuality and boy bands. There's like boy band in here too. And you get like feelings like one of the guys is kind of like a Justin Timberlake feeling, even though the main character doesn't feel like Britney Spears to me. She feels like Christina Aguilera, but like white. So I don't know. I don't know about this. Most likely a DNF. We'll see. If something crazy happens and I suddenly have ample reading time and I don't want to read all these other books plus all these other books that are my unread books, then I guess I'll read it, but I can't see that happening. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the books that I just got yesterday. So first off, they sent me a free short story. So they've been having these like short story collections as add-ons, and I don't know why I got this, but it sounds like they like handpicked it for me because it's called A Spell for Disappearing. So it sounds witchy and it sounds like it's about magic. So I will try to read this. I mean, it's not like a full book, but it looks kind of fun. What I like about this is it's so lightweight. It's 30 pages, and starting soon, I'll be back in like autumn mom mode, and I'll have soccer games and cross-country meets and dance rehearsals in which I am sitting. And sometimes my purse feels very heavy. So this looks like a good thing I can just slip into my purse and read at one of those practices. So I'll probably save this to after fall sports start. Next, I got House of Glass by Sarah Pekkanen. And I started this last night, and I'm on page 56, and I'm enjoying it. When I finish this, if my kids are still being good, I am going to read this book. So I assume I'll finish this in a couple days. It's the point of view of a woman who's like she's a lawyer, but she's like an advocate for a child during a particularly bad custody battle. And the premise is that this child's nanny fell, pushed, whatever, jumped from a 3rd floor window and literally died in front of her. She was playing outside with her grandma, and the nanny hit the ground and died in front of her. And her parents are both fighting for custody, but they're both suspects in the murder. The dad was having an affair with the nanny. The nanny was pregnant with his child. We find out via autopsy. This is all in the first chapter, so this isn't spoilers. And so both parents kind of have, motive. I'm enjoying it so far. I've only ever read her book that she co-wrote with, I'm going to forget her name, Greer Hendricks, I think it is. The Golden Couple. That's the only other book I've read by her, and I liked it. So I'm enjoying this so far. I do think this is going to be one of those books that I'll probably read like 100 pages tonight, and then I assume tomorrow I'll just have to burn through it. which is too bad because I have to take my children to a carnival tomorrow. Mom life. Next, this is the book I was most excited that it was picked because I didn't think it was going to be picked, is Hera by Jennifer Saint. I'm going to read this book and I'm going to love it. I am going to read this book in a particular time in the month, which isn't really going to make sense, but I have some writing work I'm doing right now and I need to finish it. And when I am done with that, I would like to be in an ancient Greece frame of mind for a different project, which doesn't have anything to do with Hera, but I would really like my brain to just be thinking about ancient Greece. So when I finish the work stuff I'm working on now and I can move on to that project, that is when I will read Hera, so that when I'm working/reading, I am just always thinking about ancient Greece. And I think that will help me with my setting, which is so weird. Also, I'm so excited for this because Hera's like the worst. She is the worst. No one's favorite goddess is Hera. You show me a person whose favorite goddess is Hera and I will show you I don't know, maybe someone who's been cheated on like 1,000 times. That's the only reason I could think you'd like love her. But I'm really looking forward to Jennifer Saint's interpretation. I'm not a huge mythology retelling person, but I love Madeline Miller and I love Jennifer Saint. All the other ones I've tried, I haven't really liked that much. So I kind of stick with those two. I think this is partially because I was like a Greek mythology kid and loved Greek mythology, and I was working in an indie bookstore when like The Lightning Thief came out. And then there was like a slew of other mythology retellings that never took off like The Lightning Thief did. And I read a ton of these books from like 2005 to 2009 or whatever. And so now I'm very particular about the mythology retellings that I read, but I'm very excited to read this one and hopefully fall in love with Hera. Wouldn't that be the plot twist? 2 more books left. And I got these both for different reasons. We'll talk about them. First, I got A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher, and I was kind of sad. It's the first time ever one of my Book of the Month books came damaged, but I don't think it was their fault. It was very haphazardly on my porch, so I think it was my mail carrier, who is brand new. My mail carrier, my normal one, she retired like 3 weeks ago, so I have a new guy. So I think he kind of tossed it up there. But this is a retelling of the Brothers Grimm Goose Girl, which I was very into fairy tales for a while in my 20s. And I read the sample pages on this. I talked about this in my books I thought might be picked for Book of the Month. This was one of the books, and so was Hera. And I can link that video in the description for you. I was just like, oh, I kind of want to read this. And I've heard such good things about T. Kingfisher. I've not read Nettle and Bone. I had gotten it from the library, but then I just never read it and I had to return it. And so I was like, I'm going to get this book. I don't know if I'm going to read this book this month. Honestly, it's a little fall vibey, like the cover. I feel like maybe I'm going to want to read this in September or even in October. Hopefully before October, but maybe I'll surprise you and read this because if I said I'm going to read at least 4 books, I'm sure as heck not reading Honey. So maybe I'll read this one this month. But the sample pages were fantastic. I loved the writing style and it just felt like something I could really get into. And then lastly, I hemmed and hawed about skipping the month of July because I did skip it for a Book of the Month and decided not to buy anything. And I do a no buy July most years, and usually I allow myself to get books from Book of the Month, but you remember I was sitting on 4 unread books, which I'm still sitting on, and was thinking to myself I should read those before. I didn't think this book was going to sell out, and so I was like, I'm just going to wait on this. It'll be there in August. And it didn't sell out, but I talked about before how my indie bookstores around here do like their top 10. The 2 I follow, this was in both their top 10s for weeks. So then I felt a lot of FOMO that I hadn't bought it. And another reason I hadn't bought it is it's long. It's a long book, but I do think I'm going to read it this month. I mean, my kids go back to school on August 21st. You better believe that first week, I'm not doing any like organizing their drawers. I'm not cleaning out any cabinets. There's a couple rooms in the house I want to paint. I'm not starting any of that until I give myself like a nice week of just reading and obviously working and like doing the dishes, stuff like that. But the book I am talking about, of course, is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore, which is a lit fic but has thriller vibes. And I was thinking, because me and lit fic have not been getting along as well lately as we used to, but I loved I Have Some Questions for You by Rebecca Makkai, which was a lit fic with thriller vibes and also very long. So I thought that this might be the one to get me back into the lit fic. It's about a camper going missing at a camp, which also sounds good. That's another reason I want to read it in August, because it's got that summer camp vibe. And I should probably start it like next week before school gets back in session. But I've just seen it everywhere. It's been everywhere. And I'm like, oh, why didn't I get that book in July? But it's okay. I'm glad I didn't know by July, because then I didn't feel guilty about buying 4 books in August, which normally I don't usually let myself get 4 books. Very occasionally I let myself get 4 books. 2 books is the sweet spot. Those are all my books. If you are still here, I don't care if you haven't read any of them. Tell me what you think I should read first. I'll show you all the titles again, so you don't have to like go back and rewatch the video. So you can tell me which I should read first. Okay. No one say honey, please. I don't want to read it. So just don't say it. Next is The Ministry of Time by Kayleen Bradley. Is that what her last name is? Yep. Next, I've got The Great Divide by Christina Enriquez. Next, I have Shelterwood by Lisa Wingate. Next, I have A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. Next, I have The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. And then lastly, you can't put these in it because I'm already reading House of Glass by Sarah Pekkanen, and I have a very specific time in which I want to read Hera by Jennifer Saint. If you belong to Book of the Month and you got this, A Spell for Disappearing, and you read it, it was amazing, tell me, because then I'll read it earlier than September. But if not, I will just read it now. If I should read it like right away, let me know. Or I can read it in September. Either way. If you've made it this far and you don't want to write words, but you want to let me know you made it to the end of the video, please leave me a big stack of books emoji in the comments. I would love it. And if you are interested in joining Book of the Month after this video, I will have my link in the description for you to get a deal on your first book. And as always, I hope you're in the middle of a good book, about to start reading a good book, or about to start writing a great book. I'll see you soon.